tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal, it's hit him on the pad, he's out! Lions gone, New South Wales are 9 down, onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car! Oh, I think it's hit a car! What a way to bring up your 50!
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the longest running cricket podcast in Australia. I'm Mennners, and I'm coming to you after Australia have retained the Ashes in stunning fashion. Ben Stokes in 2023 said, "We will live forever in the memory of people who were lucky enough to witness us play cricket." And Ben, we have been lucky to watch you play cricket this summer because this has been a delight for Australian fans. You've coughed up the Ashes in 11 days, equaling the record from the 2002-03 Ashes. Embarrassing stuff. Brendan McCullum, after the Lord's Test match in 2023, said, "I can't imagine we'll be having a beer with them anytime soon," talking about the Australian team. Well, there'll be no beers for Brendan on this tour, my friend, because they've lost a series in embarrassing fashion. Watch this Muppet McCullum trying to say they're playing entertaining cricket again. Well, entertaining cricket is one thing. I think your fans would like you to win a fucking game sometime. How about winning, champ? So what a glorious day for Australia. We have now held the Ashes for almost 3,000 days since December the 18th, 2017, when Steve Smith's team regained the Ashes. We are 3-0 up again in the series. England have come here and completely embarrassed themselves, have put up embarrassing performances, and Australia are going to be sitting at Christmas Day lunch very, very happy knowing the Ashes are in the bag already again. This English team, Stokes and McCullum, they talked a good game, but on the field, they've delivered nothing. And how joyous to see. What a day today. Mitchell Starc taking 3 of the 4 wickets. Alex Carey being player of the match. Sure, there was a brief fight back from England. They made us work today. But boy, in the end, Australia's class, Australia's heroism came through. And England, a futile effort trying to chase down a world record score. And Australia now, again, the Ashes in the bag at home. You know, there have been calls for a close Ashes series in Australia. Well, we weren't going to get it out of these Bazballers. They were woefully underprepared. I mean, they had every opportunity. No Cummins for 2 tests. No Hazelwood for the series. No Smith for this match. No Lyon today. I mean, Lyon went down, and then Jamie Smith played the worst shot of Mitchell Starc. An awful hack across the line. What did Ricky Ponting say? Dopey, dopey, dopey. And that should be the new motto for these Bazballers. Dopey, dopey, dopey. Because that's what they are. They've come here with terrible plans, players that weren't match fit. They've backed the wrong horses. They've turned their back on county cricket, and it's all come to nothing. They are 3-0 down in 11 days of cricket. You know, and I just think back to that Perth afternoon on the second day when Australia was chasing 205. England were full of hope. They thought they had enough. And in one session, Travis Head blew them off the park. And he did again here in this test match. 170, blew them off the park again. Amazing stuff. Australia have held the Ashes for almost 8 years, or over 8 years now. Incredible stuff. You know, there are 8-year-old kids in England, you know, going to primary school that have never lived in a country that's held the Ashes. That's how good this is. You know, I think back to my childhood in 89 to 2005, where Australia held the Ashes for 16 years. Well, this team is on that kind of run. They haven't won a series in England, but drawing the last two is admirable. So now the best chance England have of getting them back is in 2027, obviously, the next series. And that would have been 10 years Australia have held the Ashes. So England just can't play cricket. I mean, let's be honest, they're just hopeless. They're hopeless and they're annoying and they're arrogant. And they treated us like shit in the 2023 Ashes. And it is coming home to roost now in this series. Clearly, this Aussie team is motivated by what those pricks did to them in that last series. The fact that they didn't have a beer with them at the end of the series. When Carey, actually, I saw a social media video. I can't remember who it was, but Alice Carey was talking about that. And he did make a subtle mention of how he's never had a beer with the English team because every other series had one except for that last Ashes series. So, these guys got what was coming to them, and it is fantastic to watch. I do feel sorry for the English fans that have traveled all this way. And when I say I feel sorry for them, I feel sorry for them like if hundreds, 100%, I feel sorry for them like 0.2 of 1%. Because I'm sorry, you support this team. You treat our players so badly when they come to England. Bad luck. Bad luck. Bad bloody luck. So also I've got my Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes unemployment t-shirt. So you can get them in the Cricket Unfiltered store. Just put Cricket Unfiltered merchandise on the in Google and it'll come up because clearly Baz will definitely be looking for a job after this series and Stokes will be probably next. I think Stokes has got more of a case for staying on, but you can't imagine McCullum seeing through his contract in 2027. I mean, this has been all-time a shit performance by them. And Australia have been majestic. I mean, backs against the wall, players down. Today, things were looking bad. I mean, things were looking bad when Jackson Smith were together. Lyon had got injured. Stark was on 2 warnings, so if he runs on the pitch again, he can't bowl. It seems like Cummins maybe not 100%. He did bowl really well and he put in, but it looked like he didn't have a lot left in the tank after coming back from injury. You had Cameron Green and Scott Boland then. So, had Jackson Smith been able to keep Australia out there, maybe they could do something, but it just didn't happen. Great fielding. We saw Mennners take a couple of terrific catches in this innings, one today. A real specky going away to his left in front of Alex Carey. But, this was a gutsy performance by Australia. Unfortunately, Nathan Lyon, did his hamstring and it looks like he'll be out for the rest of the series. So that's a big blow and what a shame. Recalled, bowled so well in this game, broke the game open last night with 3 quick wickets and then did his hammy in the field. And, he's 38 now. These injuries are catching up to him. And look, I've had him, in this very studio. We've talked about his career and his approach to fitness after that calf injury at Lords in 2023. And, he said he's going to be more diligent than ever with his fitness, with his stretching, looking after his body, getting right for these big occasions. And, unfortunately, his hamstring's gone again. So you just can't outrun time. Hazelwood getting more injuries and, anyway, so no line today, and Australia still did the business. Just amazing stuff. 3-0 up in the Ashes. And, Daniel Cherney, great journalist, put a tweet out before that in the Ashes this century, Australia have been 3-0 up in every series apart from the 2010-11 series. So, yep, hold the Ashes. It'll be 10 years by the time Australia go to England next time. That's right. So by then there'll be 10-year-old children in England that have never been in a country that have held the Ashes. Again, satisfying. Not that I'm against English children, but just satisfying to know that. All right, so let's just go through some of the stuff today. England started the day 6 for 207. They needed 228 to win. And it was a streaky start, and then a bit of rain came. And at this stage, England was 6 for 241. So there was a break for about 30 or 40 minutes. Then Jackson Smith brought up their 50 partnership. And by this stage, we hadn't seen Cummins bowl. Australia were trying to get to the second new ball. So they were going through their bowling line. This is before Lyon's injuries. But then Lyon did his hamstring, went off the field. And interestingly about Lyon, a new nickname has come to the surface. His new nickname is Phil, as in filthy. So they were calling him that last night when he was bowling, which I think is a great nickname after he said he was filthy for being dropped. Now they're calling him Phil. So he's gone. Australia take the new ball with Stark and Cummins, and Smith goes to 50 off 80 balls, and then he smashes 4 boundaries in a row. And at this point, the game is turning. Lions off. It's a good pitch. Australia should have made England chase 550, but they collapsed. So you've opened the door for England. Smith and Jacks are good players, and you're thinking, wow, this could go the distance. But then Smith, an awful hack across the line to Stark. Cummins moving back, took a good catch. And as I said, punter described it as dopey, dopey, dopey. And it was. He just needed to play better. So England again, they're brain dead Brook yesterday and stupid Smith today. Then Australia, there was a LBW to cast that was referred, but that was going over the top. So England went to lunch at 7 for 309. So they'd just lost 1 wicket and scored 102 runs in that session. So, at this stage, the game's still alive, although Australia only need to take 3 wickets. They've got the target down. They've scored quickly in that first session. And spirited stuff from England today. Then he won 26 after the lunch break. And then after the lunch break, interestingly, Head started from one end, which I thought was strange. Cummins and Head started. I'm not sure why Cummins started with Head. They leaked a few runs early. Carson Jacks put on a 50-run partnership, a 52-run partnership. Cast survived a LBW that was given out but overturned. The umpires have had a shocker. The umpiring in this test match has been disgraceful. It's lucky we've got DRS. Not so lucky we've got Snicko, but lucky we've got DRS. So anyway, Carson Jacks put on 52, and all of a sudden targets getting whittled away. But then a special catch from Mennners, diving to his left in front of Carey, off Stark to get Jacks. So Jacks was out for 47. The only thing I will say about the Mennners catch, as good as it was, I think Carey had it covered, and he has gloves on. So had Mennners spilt it, it would have been a bit of a howler. You can't criticize him because he took it, but I think Carey had that one covered. It was going to carry to him, and he had it lined up. So Jacks was out for 47. Carey, Stark, the second wicket for the day, and how apt it is that he starred on this day that retained the Ashes when he made such an impression in those first 2 matches with such good performances. I've got to say, Will Jacks looks a good cricketer to me. And, in the last test match in the second innings and in this test match, he looks very organised. Good pitches to bat on in those 2 innings he's performed, but I could see Jacks batting at 6 in this side. He's definitely not an off spinner, but he could bat at 6 and bowl a few overs. Yeah, good cricketer, so good to see the back of him. And then a couple of edges from Boland's bowling. Boland bowled so well, very unlucky. Cast and Archer both edged one. Cast to Green, who was very close. Archer to Carey, who was standing up to the stumps. So Australia just needed 2 wickets at this stage. But, Archer made a 50 in the first innings. You're thinking, they need, about 85 at this stage. So you're thinking maybe Archer and Cast can do a bit of a miracle here. But then Archer cut one straight to deep point. Stark got his 3rd of the day. And at that point, you're thinking it's all over. Archer's gone, their last hope, their last glimmer of hope. I never thought England were going to run this down. But for those idiots in the Barmy Army who were holding on to hope, when Archer went, it would have been the final death knell. So Stark took the first 3 wickets today, and fitting that he did, as I said, heroic series for him. He's now taken 22 wickets in the series at just 17. And then Scotty Boland got his only wicket of the innings, but it was the wicket that retained the Ashes. He got the last wicket of tongue, caught by Mennners for 1 run. England was out for 352. Australia win by 82 runs. It got tighter than many thought it would, but in the end, Australia got there. And great moment for Scotty Boland. He's the real people's champ. Okay, so Usman Khawaja is the pretender people's champ. He's self-appointed that name. Scotty Boland is the real people's champ. He's quiet, unassuming. He's got to the top level through sheer determination, persistence, and hard work at domestic level. And now he's able to say he got the wicket that retained the Ashes this summer. We all know what he did last Ashes, the 6 for 7. Well, this time it is taking the Ashes ceiling wicket. England lost 3 for 15 at the end there. So all out for 352. Crawley top scored with 85. Jamie Smith 60. But I reckon you have to take maybe 100 runs off just for the way he got out. So minus 40. Not a good innings. Will Jacks 47. Bryden Cast 39 not out. For Australia in that final innings, Mitchell Starc all 3 wickets today, 3 for 62. Pat Cummins, the top 3 yesterday, 3 for 48. Nathan Lyon 3 for 77, but how sad that he had to limp off. And Scotty Boland that last wicket, and it was a particular story. Pat Cummins knocked off the top yesterday with 3 wickets. Then Nathan Lyon with that late burst last night, and then Starc today with 3. So 3, veterans for Australian cricket all made such a huge mark on this series winning match. And I have to say, this Australian team, they're battling. I mean, injuries, and they're getting old, but they've battled to the end, and well played to them. Now, Alex Carey was the player of the match, and he was very emotional. We know he'd lost his father in September, so this would have been a particularly emotional match for him. And what a performance. A century, 70, 5 catches, some great wicket keeping. And, so often wicket keepers go under the radar. So, great reward for him. I thought Travis Head must have gone close to getting his 4th consecutive player of the match award at the Adelaide Oval. But, the right decision was made. You could have given it to Head. I mean, that was again, a series defining innings. I mean, Australia needed every one of those 435, and Travis Head in that 349 run second innings for Australia made 170. He made almost half himself. So you just can't, you just have to say that, Head and Starc are the 2 reasons, the 2 main reasons Australia have retained the Ashes so quickly. But then, great performances from Carey and Neser and Labuschagne and Smith. Anyway, great team effort. But in the end, Head and Starc have been the sort of decisive performances when the matches have been on the line. Stokes was interviewed afterwards, says the dream is dead, obviously, that the execution was poor, and there's still a lot to play for in this series, and they do. I mean, England, they haven't won a game in Australia since the 2010-11 series. I mean, these bloody pretenders have come here with all this bluster, and it's amounted to fuck all. And so he wants to go home with at least a game and give his fans something. So, and it is, I guess, something for Australia to be wary of. England have looked at times a bit better as conditions have got a bit more friendlier for them. This was a good batting pitch. And going into the Melbourne and Sydney tests, Australia will have to make changes. I mean, there are lots of issues. I mean, who's going to replace Nathan Lyon? There's been, I guess, 3 candidates floated up. Matt Kuhneman, Todd Murphy, or Corey Rocacholi. All 3 of them have different attributes? Obviously, Kuhneman, left arm, has done it for Australia at test level. Todd Murphy, more your classical off spinner who gets more side spin, shorter, more diminutive character. Corey Rocacholi, who I've seen a lot of at domestic level, he's a tall, more over the top off spin bowler like Nathan Lyon. So gets top spin like Lyon does. And, in this studio, Lyon and I were talking on the podcast about how Lyon backs Rocacholi is, having a big future, and he's taken a ton of wickets at domestic level. He also went on Australia A tour, so they are looking at him. So, they're the three, Kuhneman, Roccacioli, and Murphy, that'll figure if they play a spinner, they might go all pace and they might just decide to dispense with it. But I think for Sydney, you'd want a spin bowler. I personally would go with Kuhneman for a couple of reasons. But I mean, the first reason is he's a genuine wicket taker at test level, and you need 20 wickets to win test matches. He's proven at test level, not proven on Australian wickets, but proven at test level. So I think Kuhneman would be the guy I'd go for. I also, I just like the fact that he's had experience. You still bring him into a pretty big series. Roccacioli hasn't had any, but the series is sealed. If they want to have a look at him, might be the time to do it. So, questions for Australia: Nathan Lyon out. Steve Smith will probably come back in. What do they do with Khawaja? And can these bowlers back up? Can Pat Cummins' body stand the rigors of a test match to start in just 5 days' time? I'm not so sure it can, and I'm not so sure they should push him. There's a lot of test cricket for Australia to come over the next year and a half. You don't want to have a reoccurrence of that back injury. It's 3-0 up. Australia have retained the Ashes in record-breaking fashion in just 11 days. Yes, put that in your pipe and smoke it, Baz McCullum. So maybe Cummins rests the next test match and we see Joe Richardson come in. So questions for Australia, obviously a ton of questions for England, but I don't give a fuck about their questions, really. I mean, they've backed this team for so long, they probably will stick with them for the rest of the series. But, what a day. Sunday, December 21st, 2025, Australia retain the Ashes. They go 3-0 up. And today, as I said, the heroes, Mitchell Starc, but, Alex Carey, player of the match. All right. So, look, that's it. How good? Brendan McCullum, Ben Stokes, Ben Duckett, all those guys who, talked so much bullshit over the last couple of years. Well, you came here and you got a cricketing lesson. Australia have handed you a lesson because, you got too big for your breeches and now it's all come home to roost. Joyous stuff. So happy. All right. So thanks everybody for tuning into the podcast. I'll be back in the next couple of days with Gav. We'll do a complete rundown, or Damien, maybe Damien's around. We're going to do a complete rundown of the test match, look at the next test match, preview Boxing Day, run through the series so far. Remember, get your Baz and Stokes Unemployment Office t-shirts. You can get them in the Cricket Unfiltered merch store. And I'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks, everybody.